also a warm welcome to our esteemed speaker, Mr. AJ Ansari. Mr. AJ Ansari is the Vice President, IAMCP Americas Board. He is also a Microsoft MVP and specializes in the Microsoft ecosystem, particularly for Microsoft Dynamics. On this note, I would please request Mr. Ansari to please take the mic and begin the session.
Rukhaya, I appreciate the invitation and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with your audience today. And thank you to Aleph for the invitation. I am AJ Ansari. I am, of course, as Rukhaya has noted, the Vice President of IAMCP Americas. IAMCP is a professional association for Microsoft Channel Partners. The name itself extends out to International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners. We're represented by 600 partners in the Americas region that I represent, and over 1,600 partners across the world. Now, aside from IAMCP, my day job, as it were, I am the Chief Operating Officer at DSWI. We are a Microsoft partner, and we focus on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central and surrounding technologies, which would be Power BI and the Power Platform, and of course, Copilot, which, while new, is something we are quite passionate about. So that's a little bit about us. I'm based in Houston, Texas. I'm also a Microsoft MVP since 2018. I forgot to share that. I think somebody made a joke about how do you know if there's a Microsoft MVP in the room, and the answer was they will tell you. Yeah, with that, Rukhaya, I'll turn that back to you. Let's get started.
I would take this opportunity to briefly introduce Aleph to our attendees. Aleph is a Microsoft service distributor. We work as extended technical arm for Microsoft partners. We provide white label services and a lot of more partner enablement initiatives to the Microsoft partners. The core agenda of Aleph is to empower the partners to scale and to grow their revenue and grow their business. So if there are any technical difficulties or if you require any technical resources to cater to any project, whether it is part-time, full-time, or on project basis, you can connect with me. And after this amazing introduction by Mr. AJ Ansari, I think we're good to begin the session. Now let me begin with the first question, AJ. When it comes to Copilot, how much do you think are the partners currently monetizing or commercializing this opportunity?
Oh, I think we're very much pre-revenue for most partners. I think there are very few experts, if any, that are out there. I think the experts that are out there are primarily experts on the technical side. I think the technology's technical rollout has been staged and staggered over the last year to 2 years across the various products and platforms. And so people have had some time to learn, to experiment, to play with it. But really, the commercial motion for Microsoft started around Copilot for the M365, for instance, in January of this year. When you look at the Copilot offerings for other platforms like Dynamics 365 and so on, many of those are built into the product and not separately commercialized. So I think if you look at it, I would imagine that there are very few partners out there across the world who have a strategy in place to sell Copilot or are really knowledgeable and are making any revenue of note. I think the majority of the partners are probably still grappling with the, can I sell it? Should I sell it? What would it cost? I know a lot of partners who are not familiar with the costing mechanism as well. So these are all things that people are looking at from the outside in, and I think any direction, any step made in that direction is a positive step. I think there's always that crawl, walk, run paradigm. So I encourage partners, if you're not crawling yet, start with the crawl. Don't worry about the run part. I think the run part will come to you.
All right, that was a great one. Although we have superficially seen the challenges that the partners are facing to sell this particular, AI thing, Copilot altogether, even after the entire boom that we had about OpenAI and GPT and stuff like that. Can we highlight some partner challenges that stops them, from making or commercializing this? Why do you think, in spite of having this on the table, partners are not able to go ahead and upsell it or put it forward to their customers?
Sure. I will state a few different challenges. I think there's more than one. The first one is being able to tell a good narrative on why a business should purchase it. I think in the context of the price point, for instance, I'll use the U.S. market as an example. because that's where I'm based out of. In the US market, the Copilot for Microsoft 365, which is the only thing you can commercialize. Again, as a reminder, your Copilot AI type of solutions for Dynamics 365 and other products are primarily built in or baked in and included in the price of the offering itself. But for Microsoft 365, that's your Office products, your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint, etc. The price point is not insignificant. It's about $30 a user a month, and Microsoft currently requires that the license is sold in the NCE, or the New Commerce Experience model, for the entire year. It's on an annual plan, annual payment. So somebody has to commit to keeping that license for the whole year. I think so. That's a challenge. But when they compare that to the Office or the M365 licenses themselves, which are often about half the price, sometimes lower. So that price point, I think, is one obstacle. A second obstacle is partners and your customers haven't yet figured out what personas, what roles in these customers, in these customer companies are going to benefit the most. Because in some ways, I think partners and users still haven't figured out all the things Copilot can do, because there's so much around us, right? You hear of Copilot, the first thing you think about is generative AI. What does that mean? What is Copilot? What is it going to be able to do for you? So one of the things that sometimes, if I'm doing a slide-based presentation, I'll talk about are 5 things that Copilot can do for you. Create. It can create things for you. It can create a Word document. It can create a framework. It can create a PowerPoint slide deck, and so on, with different levels of success or acceptability. But it can do those. It can edit things for you. You can ask it questions for research, right? And so if you need an answer to something, you can ask it those questions. It can help you catch up. So if you're in the Microsoft Teams application, it can help you summarize, or take a large document, summarize it. Take a Teams meeting like the one we're having today, summarize and ask questions about it, search through the transcript, and it can help you understand. Which can be kind of almost related a little bit to the catch-up part. But if you have a very large document and you're seeking to understand, what is the premise of that document, it can help you do that as well. So once you understand the 5 key premises and then try to align them with the different roles, it may become a little easier to identify. Is it the C-level executive? Is it the frontline worker? Is it somebody in between? Where does it fit? I think partners don't fully understand that, and I think there's a real struggle there as well. I think the third aspect is Copilot, like any other tool, can be a bit of a commodity. So if I am selling Copilot and I'm in a competitive situation with another Microsoft partner who's selling Copilot for Microsoft 365 as well, why should somebody buy from me as opposed to the other partner? What is unique about my offering? If it's a commodity, it's usually going to be the first person that knocks on the door and can make a convincing case. If you want to move from commodity to something that's a unique advantage for yourself, we need to build something on top of it. And you can extend Copilot. There is the ability to make some things that are unique for the customer's need, or something unique that you build and take to market. But the maturity and the partner side is simply not there yet, because the tools are new and people are still grappling. I think the last part is the I don't know answers show up everywhere. There is documentation today from Microsoft on a lot of questions that are commonly asked, but you will still find questions around security and so on at times that is not as easily available. And so there's that level of fear, maybe in some places rightfully so, of not having answers when the customer asks. And if I don't have the answers, maybe I don't want to have that conversation. It's a very long-winded answer for sure, but I hope you understand those are some of the struggles I think that have kept partners from getting to revenue yet.
I completely agree with most of these, AJ, especially the one where we talk about the personas. So I guess the partners need to understand the product in themselves first, and then we can go ahead with pitching this down to the customers. That brings us to the next question, which talks about the technical essentials which the customers should be ready with. So when we talk about customer readiness, from setup to security, what all should the partners align when any of their customers is ready to get into this Copilot game and actually have it implemented? So what would be the technical readiness that we can have for the customers?
That's a great question. That's actually a very thought-provoking question for you. So I think, one, if you are looking at any of the Copilot offerings that are built into the various Dynamics 365 applications that I said come at no charge, let me give you one example. In Dynamics 365 Business Central, there is some capability now around bank reconciliations that uses an AI feature that's called the Copilot for Bank Recs. There is some chat capability that's in beta mode. There's the ability to generate sales items on a sales invoice line by typing in the things and the quantities you need and so on. So there's not a lot of readiness, but rather there is a learning and understanding in all these cases how to prompt, how to query the Copilot or any generative AI engine. That prompting principle will also apply to Copilot for Microsoft 365. So that first part of readiness, not so much technical readiness, but there is a new way of kind of communicating that people have to master. It may come intuitively to some people, just like some people can appear to be better at selling than others. Intuitively, we might hear that as you have the knack for, you have the charisma to do sales type of stuff. But there's also the ability to learn. I've said this before, which is in the past, we'd always be taught to speak clearly and concisely. I think in the Copilot or generative AI realm, it's going to be more of a speak clearly and precisely. It's to be precise. It has to be accurate. It does not need to be concise. If you need to explain what you're asking in 5 sentences, do that, but make your question very clear so that the generative AI can provide you the help. So if you're looking for it to provide responses and give you help and help you research information and so on, that's one aspect of not so much technical readiness, but a new skill you have to acquire. In terms of other aspects of readiness, let's assume for a second we want to talk about the Copilot for Microsoft 365's ability to find data and make some sense of that data and analyze it. This is where security becomes important. First and foremost, it's important to understand that there is a fundamental difference between Copilot for Microsoft 365, which are enterprise or business-specific tools, and say something like a ChatGPT or Gemini or so on, which are publicly available consumer AI tools. Publicly available consumer AI tools are not going to protect your data. Anything that you feed to it can and possibly will become part of its larger learned model, and your data could be compromised on the, pardon my joke here, on the interwebs. But if you come and look at the Copilot for Microsoft 365 offering, or the Copilot for Dynamics 365 offering, or some of the other Copilot offerings that Microsoft offers, when you're hearing that name Copilot in the Microsoft offerings, I want you to think of one important differentiator, and that is everything is going to live inside the bounds of your tenant. So the data that your team members are going to be sharing with and going back and forth, that is secure. But that doesn't absolve you of other security readiness. The other aspect is how well have you managed access to data within your organization by different levels of security. So let's assume for a second here, I am going to make my Business Central data available for search and use by Copilot. You're probably going to have to first expose your data into by making a copy of it in Dataverse. And if I'm getting too techy, my apologies, but just follow me here. Dataverse is part of the larger Microsoft Graph, which is basically, think of it as searchable data within your tenant. When your BC data is put into Dataverse and that is now searchable, your security in Business Central will not carry over there. So somebody could potentially see financial information that they should not be privy to. So you are going to have to make sure that you set up adequate security so a frontline user who needs access to some aspects of your information is not suddenly going to also find themselves having access to confidential, business sensitive information that they shouldn't be. So it's not so much the people outside you need to worry about, it's the people inside. There's also questions that are going to come up from people. Can somebody search my OneDrive? Can somebody search my emails and so on? And to the extent possible, Microsoft has done a phenomenal job of adhering to and following security walls that are in place within different applications. I think other than that, the other part that you'd probably want to make sure as a partner is you're providing training to the people who are going to be using Copilot. Yes, it's intuitive. For the most part, people can, by trial and error, figure things out, but showing the users how they can get maximum value. What are the use cases they should be using it for? How can they maximize the value to the organization? And then probably at a management level, having some discussions about what is acceptable and what is not an acceptable use of an AI technology like Copilot. Uh, if you're doing it for research, great, but it is not acceptable, say, to use Copilot to do some research, not validate what you found through that research and simply regurgitate that as end work product. If you are going to take that research, not validate if it's correct or not, and then provide it to a customer or use it to make business decisions, that customer is probably going to end up in some very difficult situations or possibly even embarrassing situations because that data may or may not be correct. So teaching the management how they can in turn impart strong values and strong guidelines in how it's used, acceptable use cases, and so on. So training is not always going to be technical. It's not always about writing code or bringing in a developer or something like that. I think more often than not, it's training to understand how you use a new product in the marketplace. It's something that's not around. I imagine when washing machines were first selling, you would have that door-to-door salesperson who would walk in and show you how you can wash your clothes with a washing machine. What can you put in it? What can you not? I think we're very much in that same paradigm today.
I think that was pretty much informative, AJ. I think many of the attendees must have benefited from this. On this note, I would just like to announce one thing, that if any of the attendees have any questions, please put in your questions in the FAQ section and we will be taking it at the end. Now, coming down to the main part, I think for which most of the attendees are waiting when it comes to positioning Copilot. So, yeah, I often say that Copilot is not just your chatbot, it's going to be like your AI assistant, it's going to be a secret weapon for you. When that comes down for partners, how do you think best can the partners position this by addressing the correct pain points and just closing deals like pros? So, how can our partners do that, and how best can we position Copilot?
I think partners should start using Copilot themselves because there is a how do you call it, social proof that is very powerful when you can show how you were able to benefit from it or how your end customers. So in some cases, we look at a end user case study or an end customer referral, but absent that, if in a new marketplace where there are not too many other end customers to go by, there's nothing quite as powerful as using examples of how your organization is leveraging it to do the work they need to. I will give you a firsthand example of how it's helped our organization. I am not largely part of the sales motion as an executive in my organization, but there are some strategic deals that I will get involved with. And we were in a play for, we largely focus on energy-based companies and manufacturers, but we didn't have a lot of expertise in solar panel manufacturers. And a few months ago, an opportunity like that came by. And what I found was that with the help of Copilot, I was able to do some really good market research. Now, was probably everything probably accurate, or could I say 100% of everything I found was accurate or up to date? Possibly not. But what I got the benefit of is going from somebody who knew very little or maybe whatever I knew was as a consumer of solar panels and not so much as a business that was selling two ERP systems to a solar panel manufacturer. From going to a 0 on that scale to somebody who knew about 7 to 8 on understanding the key pain points in that marketplace. Why all of a sudden in the state of Texas, we were seeing an influx of solar panel manufacturers, understanding that there were some government incentives at the federal and the state level, understanding who some of their largest competitors were, getting a sense for some of the key things that I need to understand about that industry. What did your raw materials look like? What's a typical production timeline? Those types of things were very informative. In the past, that is the type of thing that I would typically need a personal assistant or somebody else in my team to go find for me, possibly an intern. And I was able to not only get that done with the help of technology without having somebody else, take their time, but I was able to do that in a very short amount of time. Copilot was able to give me all of that information in minutes, not hours and days. And then I was able to absorb and utilize some of that information. So I think that was, taking things like that, using it firsthand for your day-to-day needs. If you're creating an employee handbook, again, I would not ask you to rely on the Copilot to create an employee handbook. The funny thing is it probably could do that. with some level of success. If you ask in Microsoft Word when you're using the Copilot feature, you could ask it to generate an outline for an employee handbook or an employee handbook. You could certainly ask it to, and it'll come up with something. But what it can do is give you a framework that you could then fill in. The third thing that as a partner, this is where the extra um, value from Copilot comes. So far, I've just talked about the consumer product that you can sell as a partner to your customers. Microsoft also has another component in there called Copilot Studio. This is where you as a partner can either build your additional chatbots or you can extend the standard Copilot with different use case plugins, or you can sell this to the customer so that they can do it. This is where it gets really interesting. Being able to train the customer how to build your own chatbots, or offering a service whereby you are building that chatbot. Show them examples of how quickly you're able to create something for them. And this could be very useful for the websites that the customers have to interact with your customers, be able to take questions and answer them, or even within an organization for self-service. I'll take a little bit of a tangent and go in Copilot Studio for a little bit longer, but one very interesting thing about how Copilot Studio works as a chatbot is I don't need to spend days, weeks, and months in creating a chatbot. In the past, if you've used any chatbot creation technology, it is a very complex and cumbersome process. The end product's great, but a lot of time would go into it. What Microsoft's Copilot Studio is able to do is take all, sticking with that HR and employee handbook and HR, kind of type of example, it can take all the documentation that you have, which could be in PDF documents and Word documents. It could be on your company's website. It can take all of that and very quickly build its own knowledge base. And almost within minutes, you could have a near working chatbot that can answer questions for employees. All you need to do at that point is test and finesse and make some improvements. Determine what kind of voice it's going to use. Is it going to be a friendly voice? Is it going to be more professional? You can also determine if it needs to be, is it going to be verbose or shorten words? Is it going to take some liberties if it doesn't have all the right information? Will it kind of, assume, extrapolate, and take some liberties with that, or is it going to just respond based on what it knows, and if it doesn't have an answer, it's going to say I don't know? So you can come up with all those other parameters of behavior and be able to roll that out to your organization. So as a partner, if you're doing some of that yourself, or you can showcase some of those, I think it would make you the superhero. Now you're not just selling a commodity. Now you're selling something a little more than that. And you're showing use case scenarios that extend beyond what Microsoft's 30-second or 1-minute ads have. You're not selling a plugin. You're not selling just a mail application. So I would say that find 3 to 5 individuals in your organization. Obviously, depends on the size and scale that you are as a partner, and probably people in different roles, and have them have a go at the Copilot for Microsoft 365, and probably at least have one person in there who's also playing with the Copilot Studio. If anybody is interested in learning how to use Copilot Studio, one, Microsoft has some learning documentation available as well, and two, I also at various conferences am doing workshops. As a matter of fact, I was at Directions North America where I did a Copilot Studio workshop where I showed people how to build Copilot chatbots. And I'm doing one at BC Tech Days in about a month's time, and I'll be doing more over the course of the year. And so you could either choose to learn it yourself, or if you're looking for an instructor, this is someplace where I'd also be able to provide assistance.
Okay, I think that was a great one. Yes, indeed. Even we do promote that, the Microsoft partners need to be solution sellers. So once they implement it maybe for themselves and they actually understand how the solution is beneficial, they'll be able to be better sellers. Now, coming down to the last question of the session is that when it comes to building streams, revenue streams for partners, I had a few bullet points on my list. Like they can initiate their revenues by selling subscriptions. It could be training and consultations. It could be customizations, and the most important one being managed services, which would be a recurring revenue. All these can be linked to Copilot, and that's how the partners can actually, build their revenue streams. I would like to know your opinion on this and your view or perspective on how partners can streamline these revenue streams.
that last one that you hit on, the managed services, that's probably where I would say focus the most. The first three will take care of themselves. In fact, I would say there's a fifth revenue stream I want you to think about. The chatbot example I was giving you earlier, if as a business, instead of charging just a time and material for creating chatbots, which there's a market and a place for that, and if it's highly complex, it's probably the way you want to go. Think about the customer markets and the industries, the verticals that you serve, and see if you can't create some chatbots preemptively to serve those marketplaces. But you have to decide it's not a chatbot for manufacturing. It might be a research chatbot for industrial manufacturers in this space. And so think of who's going to use it and then create the chatbot for a persona. Is it for end users who are searching, or is it for the consumer who's searching to buy a product on a manufacturer's website? So then you're building it for the manufacturer with their consumers in mind. Is it for their employees as they do R&D? Is it for their salespeople who are doing market research? Is it for the end user who in the organization who's looking at an HR guide or whatever it is? Define personas, focus on those more than anything else, and then create a chatbot for that persona. Have that ready, even if it's not going to be 100% of a fit. Have some of those chatbots ready to go to market as a start place offering and offer them in a subscription model. And if you're going to be offering those in a subscription model, then that builds a recurring revenue stream. Now, the additive work you do to bridge the gaps that they don't have, that your bot can't do out of the box that you might need to add, those could be things you could decide to either charge as time and material or add to a subscription value based on how it works best for your organization. But look at creating these revenue streams from your custom additions to Copilot from Microsoft 365. You could do the same even within the Dynamics 365 applications. Again, I'll draw context from Business Central because that's where I spend a lot of my time with, our business and our customers are mostly there. You could extend today the Copilot features in Business Central. And so there is the Copilot toolkit. So what I would suggest is look at how you can create additive AI enhancements in the various scenarios that your customers ask for more. And that could be something you could commercialize and you could offer as a subscription model. So the revenue streams, I think, if you're looking at it, don't worry about the big dollars right away. I think focus on recurring streams of revenue. If anything that we have learned over the 5 years should continue to serve us, it's that we are really in that post-perpetual sale, one big check in front of me at that sale economy. And we've moved from that, and which can often be a capital expenditure that businesses are more shy to make, to a subscription annualized revenue, monthly, annual, triennial, whatever different timelines we have, subscription model, which is largely OpEx, and customers are quicker to buy those. Today, we subscribe to almost everything in our lives, right? We subscribe to media sources, we subscribe to Amazon Prime to deliver us things, and we're all, I think, at this point, very accustomed to paying small amounts of money to get the services we need, and instead of making a one large chunk investment into a solution. So think about how consumers are thinking and go to market that way.
Amazing. I think that was a great one. This would actually sum up all the inputs that we had about Copilot, and we would take up a few questions on that note. So we have one of our partner that says that he is a silver partner but doesn't have any credential staff for the new programs. So are there any specific partner resources that can help him for skill development?
There are actually.
Yeah.
There, I can certainly. Oh, was the person asking the question going to speak up and add more flavor to the question, or would you like me to answer it?
No, I think you would have to answer it right away since
Sure.
They would
All
want
right.
to speak.
No, that's perfectly fine. So what I would say there is don't worry about the fact that you're a silver partner. You may, or if you don't think you have access to sell it today, there are a lot of obviously distributors or disties as they're known in our world that you can sign up to be an indirect CSP reseller with, right, and sell Copilot Studio and really any other application or solution that's offered to the CSP program. So you can do that. But in terms of readiness, this is probably where, okay, I will bring up my slides if that is okay with you. Allow me to share my screen. Do I have permissions to do that? Because I'm going to share a couple of key resources.
All right. Sure.
And I'm happy to make the slide deck available to to your audience. So give me 1 second.
That'd be great. Sure.
So first, you will see, by the way, this is a chat, an AI generated wallpaper of what is somewhat supposed to look like my office, but it looks a lot better than my office does. I think it's more inspired. But let's go into this slide deck. This particular slide deck first seeks to explain all the different places Copilot is available, and how, even though it's marketed as one brand, Copilot, it's really multiple different offerings from Microsoft. And kind of, I think you heard me talk about the create, edit, ask, catch up, and understand, the 5 key things that you can do with Copilot. But as I scroll through the slide, and what you will see is there is a slide with resources that I will share out, and links to learn more. And I think this slide is probably going to be your friend. You'll find a lot of different tools in here that will both help you from the commercial side of the Copilot, as well as how you can learn to use, and how you can learn to deploy or even use build things with Copilot Studio. So I strongly encourage anybody who's really interested in spending a little bit of time. This may take some time to go through and review, but this is going to be completely worth the effort you put into it.
Perfect. I think that was an amazing one.
Okay, I
So,
wanted
yeah.
to add one more thing. I completely forgot. Now, this is not meant to be a sales pitch at all, but I know you are an IAMCP partner, and I know that Aleph has certainly seen the benefits of IAMCP, especially as and I know you've recently won a P2P partnering award, working with other partners for mutual success. I think IAMCP has also been a phenomenal resource. I am part of the Houston chapter as well, as the larger Americas organization. And I know we have done a lot of work at IAMCP across the world in creating and providing Copilot content for the last quarter, almost on every aspect of it. We've had partners who have come and presented content. We've had different levels of Microsoft folks, people who are tech evangelists, people who are on the commercial side of it, that come into those. And so if you are not familiar with IAMCP, I think it's certainly something you should consider. It's a professional association for Microsoft partners, and you will have an opportunity to learn from peers, and you'll get access to not just all the things that's already available from Microsoft as links, but you'll get access to people and partners and Microsoft resources who can help you make sense of all of that, volumes of information that's generally available. So yeah, sorry, I didn't think of that earlier.
I think I completely agree on that too. Yes, learning from peers is something that all Microsoft partners can do. Of course, Aleph has one in the P2P sector, wherein we are also, partnering with partners. We also do have resources for Copilot, and we do workshops for Copilot as well. So any of the partners, please feel free to reach us out, as well as to join in IAMCP for getting more of exposure and building the community and building the channel. Going ahead with one more question, AJ. So the person has asked about Copilot for sales, service, and finance. Does this work similarly with like the M365 license that Copilot has?
Very good question. I'll stop sharing my screen, because then this part's not really going to be of any benefit. Other slides won't. No, so those are not going to be the same. Essentially, what Microsoft has done with the Copilot brand is used it to flag or highlight any feature that is AI based. So whether it's generative AI, whether it's other modes of AI, if it automates and if it can do something autonomously, or it can help extrapolate and take large chunks of data and extrapolate and come up with some guidance and insight, all of those things are being offered as Copilot. So within every Dynamics 365 application, there are some unique scenarios that they have created with the Copilot branding. So again, I'm not on the finance and FNSC side and not on the service side, but as I drew a parallel with Dynamics 365 Business Central, they have created in Business Central, for instance, 3 or 4 different things that are all marketed as Copilot features. The first one in the Business Central world was the ability to create some very unique descriptions, or very strong marketing descriptions for a product based on its appearance, based on other information that's available to it, and that could be used if you have a B2B or a B2C portal like Shopify. Then they added the ability to do some bank reconciliations with greater ease. The third one they added was the ability to create sales lines or lines on a sales invoice or a sales order by typing out your intent, and then that would fill in the lines that you have on your sales document. And the fourth thing they added is the chat feature whereby you can query and get some information from Business Central data. So each of those are separate features. Microsoft today, across the Dynamics 365 platforms, is not selling these at an extra price. So as a partner, you don't have to worry about commercializing it. In those scenarios, as a partner, all you need to do is learn how they're used, understand the limitations and the value of using those features, and evangelize your users to use them. That by itself is not going to get you any additional revenue. Certainly that might help you win a new sale if there's somebody coming from an application that doesn't have all of those. But what I want you to think about is if you have a development team and a dev motion, explore what the toolkits that Microsoft has created to extend those capabilities. In the Business Central paradigm, Microsoft has created an AI toolkit or Copilot Sell toolkit that we can use as partners to extend that. That is your monetization opportunity. The Microsoft 365 Copilot is completely separate. I think I will bring up one slide once more and then maybe leave this one up for a little while to drive the point home. But Copilot is inherently 6 or 7 different ones. This is at the time of publishing Copilot for Dynamics 365. This is one, but even within Copilot for Dynamics 365, my Copilot for Dynamics 365 Business Central is different and works differently than Copilot for Dynamics 365 FNSC or for service management or field service, etc. You have Copilot for Microsoft 365, which is where your most immediate revenue generation opportunity comes from. Copilot for Windows is bundled into the Windows operating system, and it's more of kind of a search and query type of thing, and doesn't it really create a lot of revenue generation opportunities. Copilot for Power Platform and Copilot for GitHub are primarily designed to help people who are developing or writing code or creating low-code, no-code applications or solutions. It will help them shortcut the process of doing that work. They can describe what they're looking for, and it would be able to shortcut that process. Again, your mileage may vary on how successful it is or it isn't in some scenarios, but it will help developers get to what they need to a little bit quicker. And then Copilot for Security, I think, is probably one of the more newer ones. It gives you some insights on how your team can defend against external security threats. But these are far less opportunities to commercialize. This is where the opportunity to commercialize is the strongest. The revenue may not be, or the margins may not be as strong here. So where you want to look at, as I said, think not the commoditized side, which is just to applicate the offering as it is. Think of what you can do with Copilot Studio that comes with Copilot for Microsoft 365, where you can extend. I might have muted myself accidentally for a short bit. I don't know how that happened, but let's go back to, I want you to think about, all the different things that you would be able to, offer with Microsoft Copilot 365 and the Copilot Studio, where you can build your own solutions or teach your customer to build your own solutions. That's your highest commercializing opportunity. With Copilot for Dynamics 365, for now, I think the ability to commercialize and generate revenue is entirely dependent on your ability to develop AI solutions using the toolkit, and that may be a little longer to get to market. Does that answer the question?
I think certainly it does. Yes. All right. I think, AJ, that would be it that we had from our side. If you could please give in some closing notes to our partners before we end today's amazing session, which has definitely benefited the partners, I'm sure of that.
Well, where do I go? I say don't be afraid of Copilot. I think a lot of times people look at something like this, and to borrow a phrase that you sometimes hear about, things that are whimsical. People say this is pie in the sky stuff. Let me focus on my bread and butter offerings and things that I've known will serve me well. Certainly they can be serving you well, but this is a unique opportunity. While you may not develop a standalone sales force to sell and implement Copilot, while you may not create an entirely new offering line, trying to find new customers for it. Think of your existing customers and start having conversations with them on why a tool like Copilot would give them the ability to increase efficiency. Think about conversations around efficiency. Start talking to management at these levels and understand what some of your pain points are. And as you're marketing or offering that, try to make sure that you can separate the offering, the value of the offering by the different personas. I'll keep hitting on personas again and again and again. If you think this is a one size fits all solution, I think your customer will tune you out very quickly. If you can have the conversations focused around why this would matter to the first line worker, and why this would matter to management, why this would matter to an executive, I think, and then focus on each of those things separately as you're having those conversations, you'll have far more success. For the frontline worker, it's going to be quicker for them to, chat and maybe get the answers that they need by creating custom chatbots that you might have done or commercializing them and making them available to those users to find the information they need. I think within management or your white collar workers, the folks who are sitting at your desks and doing work and generating reports or so on, or generating content, for them, Copilot for Microsoft 365 can be really good in terms of creating content and doing some research and so on. I think in terms of the management or at the accounting level or something, as you go higher up, the ability to analyze that data. How much time can you save if a tool like Copilot could be used to make sense of large amounts of data? I think there was for many years now, since the advent of cars, we have thought about the power of automobiles and so on, and horsepower, and how many horses worth of equivalent power can we generate with this car. I think in some ways, in the next 10 to 20 years, maybe we'll think about AI or Copilot in these solutions in terms of brain power, like 50 brain power, 100 brain power. Not that we're not smart enough to do these things, but it will take us a longer time to do it. And so, how much data can Copilot quickly analyze and help an executive team make the decisions they need to, and how quickly can then they take action based on that, and how much time does it save, how much competitive advantage does it give to them. Think about those scenarios, create those, and have those conversations with your customers. So do that. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for 6 months or a year. Yes, it's an ever improving technology in a landscape, but AI has been around for a long time, and it's been around since the 1950s. Yes, it might sound surprising, but that is the case. And I think for the longest time, we've had a growth that was kind of slowly going like this, but now we have entered the parabolic phase, or the kind of almost growing at a log type of style, and now we're just shooting up. And every day you're not doing it, chances are your competitors are, and you are going to find yourself behind by larger measures, because it's going up like this, not a straight linear growth anymore. So that's my final thought to you. I hope you found this session informative. If you're going to be at Dynamics Con Live, or if you're going to be at BC Tech Days, Dynamics Minds, or Days of Knowledge Central in the next month and a half, find me there. I'll be speaking at all those events on various topics. And Ruqayya, Alif, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, indeed, it was an amazing session, AJ. Thank you so much for your time. I am sure our partners have highly benefited from this session. I would be sharing the recording of the session across on YouTube and our other social media handles. For our upcoming webinars, I would request all the partners to stay tuned and sign up with us on our subscriber list, so that we can message you and email you whenever we have any valuable upcoming series again. Thank you so much, AJ, for your time and concern. Thank you so much. I'm sure the community is going to benefit greatly out of this. Have a great one. Bye bye. See you. Thank you so much to the attendees too. Bye bye.